There's a kind of quiet that sinks into a home after loss. Not the peaceful kind. It's heavier, settles in the corners like dust, clings to doorframes and lingers in the spaces once filled with laughter. You don't always notice it until the light hits just right. I hadn't noticed it until we lost Claire. She was the soul of the house. My stepmother. A woman with a laugh that lived in the walls, a voice that made the air warmer. She held everything together with kindness and rhythm. When she passed, it wasn't just the people in the house who grieved, it was the house itself. Now, it's just me and Thomas, her husband, in this old craftsman home in Asheville, North Carolina, a place that still smells like fresh herbs in the spring and keeps her memory tucked into every corner. Thomas doesn't talk much about the grief. He holds it in the way he stands a little too still sometimes, or smiles half a second too late. I can feel it in him, like a quiet vibration under every word we don't say. I don't know when things shifted between us. Maybe it was in the silence, or the routines that became rituals after she was gone. Maybe it was in the way his eyes started meeting mine longer than before, not with confusion or desperation, but recognition. Like we both saw something in each other we hadn't noticed when she was here. It had been a year since the funeral. One rainy night in March, with the soft patter of rain tapping against the windows, I couldn't sleep. I padded down the stairs barefoot, the wooden floor cool beneath my feet. I expected darkness, but the kitchen light was on. Thomas stood at the sink, hands braced on the counter, staring into nothing. When he turned and saw me, he didn't look surprised. Just tired. Familiar. Couldn't sleep, he asked quietly. I shook my head. You. He exhaled. I miss her voice the most at night. It hit me like a stone in the chest. No dramatic tears, no shaking hands, just the truth, spoken soft and raw. I poured us each a cup of tea and handed him his. Our fingers brushed. Just for a second, but it left me breathless. You've grown strong, he said, looking into his cup. Claire would be proud. So would she of you, I replied. His smile was far away, like he was searching through me for something he couldn't name. We stood there in silence, sipping tea, the rain cocooning us in hush. I went back to bed later, but I carried the weight of that stillness with me, the kind that doesn't leave bruises but settles into your bones. Spring came slowly that year. I started spending more time at the house, gardening, cooking, doing small errands. Thomas lingered more on the porch or joined me in the kitchen. His questions shifted to no. They weren't the kind you ask out of politeness. They were the kind that listen for real answers. What did you use to dream about? He asked one evening as we shared lemonade on the back steps. No one's asked me that in a long time. I said. Another night, I found him in the yard, bathed in golden dusk, standing still with his hands clasped like he was trying to hold something invisible. Mind if I join you? I asked. He turned, offered the smallest smile. You remind me of her. But not in a way that hurts. You're something different, stronger, more alive. I sat beside him closer than before. My heart ached, but not from pain. From something unnamed and unexpected. He looked away quickly, shame in his eyes. I rested my hand on his. You don't have to apologize, I whispered. He didn't pull away. It's not wrong, I said. Just complicated. His eyes met mine then. Really met them. When you're near, the world feels less heavy. I feel the same, I said, barely breathing. That night, I stood outside his door for a long time. I didn't knock, I didn't leave. I just stood there, listening to the house breathe around me, wondering if the world had changed. It had. He started touching me, more gentle, respectful gestures, a hand on my shoulder, a brush of fingers as we passed each other in the hall. Nothing inappropriate, just human, just needed. You've become the heartbeat of this home, he told me one evening while I stirred soup on the stove. I looked up. You say things like poetry. You inspire them. We ate by candlelight, not by plan, but because the power had flickered earlier. Still, it felt intimate, honest. Afterward, he placed his hand over mine. Thank you, he said, for staying, for letting me feel something again. Later, I found him asleep on the couch. I laid a blanket over him, but his eyes opened. "Didn't mean to wake you," I whispered. "Maybe I was waiting for you." I sat beside him. He reached for my hand. "I've followed every rule in my life," he said. "But nothing prepared me for how I feel about you." "I know," I said. And I did. This wasn't about replacing her. It was about remembering how to feel again. About rebuilding something quiet and sacred. Sometimes love doesn't arrive like thunder. Sometimes it shows up like rain on the roof, steady, soft, and needed. And when he whispered, "You make this house feel alive again," I finally believed that I did.